Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
All right, everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Frankly Francisco podcast. Today's guest, his name is Richard Blank. He is amazing from everything that I've gathered from him. He holds a bachelor's degree in communication and Spanish from the University of Arizona and a certificate of language proficiency from the University of Sevilla, Spain. So Richard, introduce yourself to my audience.
So happy to be here today, Francisco. Really, I love your show. I'm one of your audience. I decided to reach out and just let you know, hey, I want to pay it forward and be a guest. But yeah, I'm the proud CEO of Costa Rica's call center. I'm originally from Northeast Philly. Decided when I graduated the proud Abington High School to double down on my favorite class, which was Spanish. So I was a Spanish major at the University of Arizona. In college, I interned for Telemundo. Post-grad, the importers of Corona got a job. And so I had momentum. And when I was 27 years old, I was given a 1 in a million opportunity to move to Costa Rica. And I took it. Fell in love with the girl of my dreams, started a business 16 years ago. And here we are today, my friend, a tale of twists and turns.
Yeah, I mean, I can say with certainty that that's amazing that you had an opportunity to move to a different country. I've been wanting to live in Spain for the last umpteenth years, but it's so difficult because you have to have a skill that the Spanish people don't have, which, it's kind of hard to do. But for you, that journey that took you there, man, it's been amazing for you. So you were able to cultivate your talents to start this company. How difficult was it though? How difficult was it to get the financing? How difficult was to do the hiring? What was the process for that for you?
Well, that was an excellent question. Let's just consider the 4 years that I spent at my friend's call center more of a graduate school for me. Mm-hmm. So instead of learning the business at sea level, Francisco, I was doing it more from the inside out, which, my opinion, you get more respect those with whom you work. And so I got to see the happy and the sad, and I got to hear the gripes, but also the good moments. I learned retention, customer support, onboarding, human resources, training, search engine optimization, amazing skills. And so when it was time for me to start my own company in my mid-30s, I did have a little bit of capital, but I had the knowledge. I had the knowledge to a certain point. I realized I needed specialists. So I decided to expand. My wife joined the company. She became the director of human resources. And so I might be the owner. She's the boss. But I did need attorneys and accountants and a chief technical officer because I wasn't in Cisco school. And so by delegating, I besides my own roots, I could have branches now and expand and promote others. Thankfully, the majority of my decisions were correct. But I never batted 1,000. From time to time, I was disappointed more than I was angry. I believe, Francisco, in right bus, right seat. You might be doing a forced fit, or someone might be over-prepared, under-prepared, or just not in the right frame of mind for it. But that's just how it goes in business. It's like a chessboard. But financially, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to say, I mean, you have to fail sometimes to be able to find your rhythm. You have to dig through different agendas and different people to find that right mix of people for the company. And it seems like you were able to do that. It took some lessons, but you finally got there.
My dear brother, there is a big difference between me trying to hustle and lose my money in a scam. But if I invest time and effort, a payroll and infrastructure in somebody, and they weren't prepared to meet me halfway, they didn't have the structure and discipline. I'm from Philadelphia. That's on you. I did this. And so is it a failure? No. It was faith in an individual. Just unfortunately, the arrow missed its target. But I always try. It's almost like a boxer going for a power bomb and someone's able to dodge it. At least they tried 100% to hit you. I tried. I did everything I could. And so as a leader that might have to take some losses from time to time, because in my industry, Francisco, there's attrition, I could look at my eyes in the mirror and realize as a general of this army, I did everything in regards to support and resources and calling the balls and the strikes and really giving someone the benefit of the doubt, like a real man, to see what they could do in this life. And it's amazing to me how a certain schedule could be a deal breaker, or they might see $5 here, but don't see the $50 investment there. I've always believed that the theory of the experience, compared to what you read. And I don't want to read a ton of books. I want an ounce of experience. And as I learned working at my friend's center, that's the greatest thing you can get is the live stuff. And I'm not the largest. I'm 150 strong. So I could be selective. And almost like a dirty dozen, people gravitate towards a smaller center like myself where they can get that individual efforts. It's like the classroom, athletics, or a dojo. How much time can you get from the coach? How many sets can you get on the bench when the gym is too crowded? And so with me, my friend, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. It was just right. And that's why I was able to get the right people here. So that's why, my friend, scaling a business, a lot of it has to be on the human side. We can talk about the finances in a minute, but really it's about that foundation stability of people coming back the next day, because you could have all the money in the world, but if nobody shows up, you don't have friends or a business.
Yeah, and I think you come to the realization and the way you're talking right now that you understand that the lifeblood of a company is his employees, people who actually are there day in and day out making, especially in a call center, you have to make those calls, you have to make the connections with the clients. It keep bringing people back, but if the employees are 100% in and they're doing their part, it helps grow the company. It helps the company become successful, but you have to have the right people in place. So I 100% understand what you're talking about.
Francisco, my brother, I'm sure you have 5 really cool nicknames that all your friends call you. And so we try to make nicknames here. We try to pick you up on rainy Wednesdays. I want you to flip a piece of paper over and give me a coming of age moment when you beat up a bully or saved a kitten. Why? Can you zig? Can you zag? Can you be real? Can you be a painting, not a print? Stop memorizing answers during a job interview and stop being so stiff. There's no straight lines in nature. I like half moons. And it's very, very easy for me in this linguistic environment. You're bilingual, aren't you, Francisco?
I am.
Okay, just like myself. So you understand the dedicated practice and the structure and discipline. So anybody that speaks a second language bears the mark of higher education, even if you have a slight accent. It's like a beauty mark. But this is a linguistic environment. This is a learned environment. Everybody can size each other up and respect one another. I'm hoping it's not hit the ball and drag Johnny. I'm looking for people to be as good, if not better. Where am I going with this? Maybe sharing more diplomatic vocabulary, better rebuttals, better balance and delivery. It's almost if somebody else can do it, that's one of your own, you can do it too. And since I'm on not a home court advantage. I'm still a guest here. I've been here for 2 decades, whatever. I'm not a local Costa Rican tico. And so when they're speaking their own language and they're able to do it in their own way, I've seen onboarding, shadowing, training. The amount of time it takes for them to get up to speed gets reduced. They can retain it. And if you can do it in 2 languages, you know perfectly well. That's like shuffling cards. You really understand it. So I love it. So guess what, my friend? I have a luxury trade. I still have the fidelity towards what I do. It's the art of speech. Most people would prefer chat or email. I still believe that the personal communication face-to-face, or even better over the phone, is still a means to an end and has value.
Well, I 100% agree with you because I'm in the financial world myself. So I am, I work for, I'm a relationship manager by day for business. So to me, the personal connection that you have with a client, you can tell their facial expressions, you pick up on cues and clues on how they're feeling. You know
Yeah.
when to ask the question, when not to ask the question, but you have to make, for me in my position, I have to make that personal connection. I can't be a robot because they're not going to trust me. If I'm just a seller, I'm not selling them something. What I'm doing is I'm selling myself to them, letting them know, listen, I'm the guy who's going to help you with your business moving forward. I'm the guy who's going to be your point of contact. I have to give them the best impression I can. And for me, front facing has always been my best thing. This is why I love podcasting, because I get to talk to people. Essentially, it's still face to face. We're on video, but it's still face to face. You can see the expressions on the face. You can see if they're into what you're doing or not. That way, you learn how to pivot and make adjustments if you have to.
It's 100% correct. I'm glad you still enjoy this. Most people lack the sort of soft skills that you and I have, Francisco. So I think we're very lucky with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me know, what kind of training is it that is required to do what you do? Because 150 people strong, that's a lot of employees. Is there modules that people have to do? Is there learning videos? I mean, obviously there's hands-on and there's people watching other people how they do it, but do they start off that way learning? Is there a learning module that they have to go through?
Prior to even learning the client's material, the agents need to have an understanding of what a CRM system is, client relations manager. It could be as simple as navigating through a Facebook, or more complicated if there's drop downs and third-party information you need to update. And training can go fast, take too long. It could be an overkill, or it could be too little. As I mentioned before, there needs to be a pace. People need to know how to use a headset. But you want to know the biggest thing, my man? It's the 160 hours of a controlled environment. So as much as you have the vigor and the courage to go out there, you might not be able to hit 300 golf balls or stand in front of a batting cage for 7 hours. Could you imagine taking hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of phone calls on a daily basis? If you build up to it, you can handle it, like at the gym or music, art, anything. But if you're brand new, you're going to get exhausted, let's say by the second round. You might pull a Chuck Wepner, but I doubt it. I mean, these people get exhausted. And so what I've learned, and it's an interesting philosophy, if I'm going to have some sort of conflict or interaction, I don't know about striking, because that takes away energy and it's a transfer of energy. The defense is another thing as well, where you're receiving the blows. I try to give the philosophy of the sway, because just like Ali with his opponents, I can gas you out, and I could still be in the high 90s in regards to my temple, my body, and you could be just exhausted mentally and physically. And throughout that time, giving me 10 to 20 goodies, tell signs, right ways and wrong ways in that conversation. And if you're astute, if you take good notes, if you can deduct, if you can maneuver in real time, is it manipulation? I guess you're giving me the ingredients. You want me to put something together. But if you play the game a little bit and you know the long play, it's very easy to have very successful conversations with people where there is an introduction, body, conclusion, and you convert. And so my main thing in the beginning is the psychology before they walk into anything. And everything is done in steps and checkpoints. I just don't want it overwhelming. It's first downs before touchdowns. I don't want to spook a kitty and have somebody burn out prior to seeing what their potential is. Do you know why, Francisco? Because they never really had the real coach, teacher, parent, no offense, or best friend that got them to do the extra 20% and really got them to do the distance. When your legs are giving out, but you still go. I don't know how the hell you made it that night, but you did it. And those are the sort of moments you think about for the rest of your life. And I want to see if I can get these people so when they stop working with me and I'm the last boss they have, they're so self-confident, self-reliant that they might earn more money. Come on, man. We're supposed to have them graduate third grade and be better. And that's what I'm trying to do. And if they can't master my level of life, how are they going to make $100 grand? How are they going to raise 3 kids and have a mortgage? I'm not saying that I'm the bar in life, but man, it's also not that low. These are the sort of skills that you can have in life to give yourself a very comfortable time. And if you're putting in the time here, what can you do, man? Stop giving me the maximum of minimum. It's like baseball, run through first, right? Remember when Bo Jackson ran into the hallway after that touchdown? Couldn't stop. Yeah, do the Bo Jackson or jump into the crowd after your touchdown. Really, just end it well. I just don't like people slowing down to green lights. That's all, Francisco.
I like the way you break it down where you want them to, before they start drinking from a fire hose, essentially, you want to be able to make sure they can handle that when it comes to it. Because when I got in this industry, it was like drinking through a fire hose. But I was raised there. I was born and raised in New York City. I was raised different. So,
That's right.
my mentality was, listen, I'm gonna I'm gonna go 100% in whatever I have to do to get where I need to go. And I understand that. But for you, are you the type of boss that, I know you have a system in place, I know you have your managers, but do you ever walk the floor yourself, just, hearing these conversations with with your people on the phone? Do you ever, go up to them and say, hey, listen, you might want to critique this, you might want to critique that? Do you do that on a regular basis?
I take it a step further. That's why you're from New York and I'm from Philly. I play pinball with my agents, Pac-Man and air hockey. New York call centers don't have those things. No, I'm only kidding. But of course, I walk the rows. I praise in public. I don't critique in private. What we do is, since we have a quality control department, they get to hear their own calls. Kind of like us with our beards. You need the mirror, and they get to listen themselves. And the greatest way for self-improvement is self-analysis. And they will know, Francisco, if they're interrupting or cross-talking, they're too loud, too soft. They didn't use the military alphabet when confirming email addresses. Not using transitional sentences or tie-down questions, making sure things make sense or sounds good, and remembering to ask open-ended questions. What type of ice cream do you like? Stop giving me yes or no questions. I like stacking answers. It saves you time and money. And so when people can practice these sort of skills, it becomes less exhausting. And a lot of the times it's like Wu Wei, allow gravity, wind, and currents to move the call. And all you do is just hold on a little bit. That's kind of fun that way. It's like people enjoy skiing. And so we can do this. If you focus on a 10-minute phone call in 30-second segments because of the average attention span, you're really looking at 20, 30-second phone calls, Francisco. And it's like the supermarket, my brother. Isn't it much easier carrying smaller bags? You can't carry 15 bags in one big garbage bag. It just doesn't work like that. They break them down into small bags. It's like when Bruce Lee walked into the dojo and beat up 30 people. He did it 1 and 2 people at a time. You chip away, brother. You separate. It's the oldest battle strategy ever. And so you just need to start moving things around so you can control it a little bit better. And a lot of it is being in the now. You have to be spontaneous. You got to find areas to anchor. And you got to make sure that those connections are there in order to get, once again, those checkpoints. But the Wolf of Wall Street and Boiler Room and Glengarry Glen Ross, you're talking about exceptionally talented people on the phone, but they had the luxury of the sense of urgency. Not every single phone call is selling stock and time's a ticket. There's a lot of your audience and people out there that work for companies that make and receive calls. They can retain a client. They might do an upsell. They might get a referral because you do such a great job. And then, Francisco, the big boy conversation is when you get the exit interview. If a client actually respects you enough to tell you what you did to lose the business, or what your competition had done to gain it. So as much as you think you're losing that dollar, you might earn $50 in the future by fixing that leak. And so if you're planning on starting a business, being an entrepreneur, or having those responsibilities, take those sort of feedbacks and put your ego aside. You're looking for survival and forward motion. You're not looking to have these sort of false impressions that you can. The worst thing ever, my man, are people that know you well and work with you and see if the curtain is pulled away that you have nothing behind it. They'd rather see you show up with dirt and grime all over your tuxedo They want to see the real you. And at this stage, my brother, I'm okay with that. A lot of people like seeing scars and they like seeing what's in a kitchen. They like seeing the amount of effort that's put into things. Enough of this final bow at the end, because sometimes people make it look too easy. And the ones that really understand it, respect it on what it takes to get there.
So I'm still a pretty young guy. So how much longer do you think you're going to be doing what you're doing right now with the business? Is there an exit strategy for you? Do you plan on opening more businesses? Because you're relatively a young guy still. You have a lot of energy. I mean, you can tell by the way you're talking, by the way you're moving. You're full of life, man. So what are the long-term plans for you? I know you have this company established, but there has to be something else in the pipeline because you don't seem like a guy that just sits there and just happy with what he has. You're always on to the next thing.
Yes and no. I I wish I retired last year. And if I do step back, I'm not going to start another business. I'm going to be taking a ton of art classes and I'm going to do athletics. I want it to feel like Saturday in camp. Seriously, I have enough money. I'm going to be fine the rest of my life. How many dinners can I eat? So I just don't want that sort of pressure anymore. And that really wasn't the sort of game that I was looking for. I saw the good and the bad side of what business and money can do with people. And I've lost friends over their unethical decisions, or people that couldn't even give a 2 weeks notice, that have been with me for years and just scamper out the back because something happens. And that's why I did what I had to do. But no, for me, it's really just about paying it forward. And someone at your own age, it all depends. Do I wish I started this when I was 18 or 20? Absolutely. But maybe I wouldn't have been ready. I was in my mid 30s, time was ticking. I wanted to see really what I could do. I might have mucked it up back in my 20s. I might have not been as responsible. I don't know. But for me, sometimes if you're dealing with other people's money and people's livelihood, maybe it was better at this stage where I'm bald with a white beard. I see it differently now. And
Yeah.
so I'm okay with that.
It's all perspective, man. I mean, listen, you've lived it, you've done it, you've put the work in. Why not enjoy time? Why you look at the country you're in? It's beautiful. You got palm trees everywhere. The weather's good all the time.
That's
I mean,
right.
you can't be in a better place than you are. But will you let it sink in after you're done, after you step down? Because sometimes when people retire, they really don't retire. They find it hard to stay retired and not jump back in because they might get the itch again, or you might be passionate still.
I don't know what to tell you. My favorite candy is circus peanuts, and most people can't stand it. What do you want me to say? I mean, look how many different flavors there are. What do you want me to say? I can't choose someone else's life or their time. Look at how many people move to Costa Rica to start a call center. It's very rare. And so I want live and let live. I want people to have good intentions. Maybe my only advice for those is just not to be hard on themselves. If they're trying to make comparison or expectations, you might want to liberate yourself. Just by moving abroad, it opened my eyes to the things that were important to us in New York and Philly sometimes don't mean anything in Costa Rica. So you almost had to start again. And you and I, just being respectful gentlemen, allowed us to network and receive invitations and have people call us back and consider us friends. And so um, I've also seen individuals that had opportunities when they were here, not saying to start a business, let's say on travel, and they didn't do the right things. They didn't respect the laws or the culture, or they just licked their thumb and were counting 20s on the quarter in Boys Town, and they're going to get their ass kicked.
Right.
And it's just they're not doing the right things, or they're going off the paths and going too adventurous where they hurt themselves. And so, to each its own. When I left Amsterdam, you leave with nothing in your backpack. You don't do stupid things. When I was traveling Europe, I saw young men and women taking chances in certain areas, and to me, it wasn't funny or cute nor cool. I mean, I think we kind of grew past that stage. You're supposed to be molding into either an adult, or B, someone that's responsible, or C, potentially shedding some skin and getting your act together. And it took me being thrown into the deep end of life by moving abroad, not having my family, friends, or network, or even any financial support. I really wanted to start on my own. And that was an incredible way not to be on your toes, but every day was so vividly alive. And it's almost like when the Wizard of Oz, it goes from black and white to color. I was reborn again, and this was in my late 20s. So, Francisco, my man, it was the perfect time. Not saying it was Jimmy, Janice, and those people at 27 years old, but I always believe that 27 is a good point from someone that is supposed to be entering into a stage. And for me, it was really the stars were aligned. I fell in love and married the girl of my dreams here. And so imagine that sort of gift. It's like going to a party and getting a goodie bag. Didn't expect to marry someone here, but I married a tropical girl. Oh, yeah, the kind you can't get in New York and Philly. Costa Rican tropical girl. So, how do you like that, Francisco?
So listen, I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad things are going as well as you want them to go. I
Yeah,
wanted to take a moment here. Listen, you own a company, you do what you do, but I know you give back. I know it's most people in your position that have the funds that's has built a legacy like you have with what you're doing tend to give back. So
that's right.
you endow a scholarship to a student every year. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, my proud Abington High School in Northeast Philly, if it weren't for those college recommendation letters from my Spanish teacher and the late principal Norman Schmidt, I would have never gotten into Arizona. My grades were terrible. Look what they did. And so, yes, I can afford to pay for a freshman's book, their senior or their freshman year in college. So I give a second language scholarship. Not saying there's anything wrong with athletics or band or any other scholarships, but I always felt like the second language one was interesting. And listen, Francisco, there's a lot of people that grow up in bilingual homes, and I understand that, and that's cool. But maybe I was just looking for the cat like myself that they only spoke English in your home, and this individual just ripped it out. So when they graduated, they had it in advanced basic or an intermediate level Spanish, like I did, a real base where they understood the preterite and imperfect tense. Maybe they could grasp the subjunctive tense and know how to conjugate certain verbs that were a little tricky. They didn't have to go crazy because the rest is vocabulary to expand that army, but they really had the working foundation of the grammar. But you know what it really is? It's the dedicated practice. It's the kid that goes above and beyond school, where they watch the movies, read the books, write in the second language. And when I get a chance to speak with them and they thank me, and it's all good, but I hear them and I hear the same sort of excitement like that I have, where they say it's for the rest of their lives they're going to use this language. And then I got even the greatest gift. And this year they inducted me into the Hall of Fame for business. Now, my high school, we have some pretty famous people. You have Stephen Schwarzman from Blackstone Group, graduated Abington, Amber Bose. You have Ashton Carter, Secretary of Defense. You have Bob Saget from America's Funniest Home Videos and Michael Buffer. Let's get ready to rumble. Eddie George, Heisman Trophy. And plus Sean Wooden, which was my year, played for the NFL. And someone like me, the second language long shot with below average grades, that was the class partier and just had a great time. But maybe I represent more than you know. Maybe I'm the person people can relate to, because I don't relate to anybody, but I relate to everyone. I don't know. I seem to be that special flavor that a lot of people wish they did, because when I come back home, maybe it's not like they want to devote an entire life, and maybe just have one of those years where they traveled Europe, or they did learn the language, or they tried an industry before going into the family business. And I just wanted to at least drink life for a little bit, Francisco. Maybe vicariously they see what I do and they say, go, Richard, go. And
I
so
think
that's just a nice way for me to put it.
I think it's inspiring people. I think what you're doing is inspiring people because by giving somebody an opportunity to earn a scholarship, to learn a second language, especially if they're trying to be as proficient as they want to be in it, seeing
That's
what
right.
you've done, seeing what you've been able to do, I thank you for that because kids out here struggle. These kids, a lot of kids can't get these kind of opportunities. And the fact that you're willing to come out of your own pocket to be able to get these kids essentially a second education from in language, because it's not easy. Spanish is a tough, and they say it's easy, but it's not. Spanish is a tough language because you have proper Spanish, and then you have dialects that you have to learn how to pick up on because every culture, every Spanish culture has a different dialect, and people don't understand when I tell them that it's a different dialect. You can go to Colombia, and one word that means something in Costa Rica means something completely different in Colombia. So, but I
That's right.
appreciate what you do, and I appreciate what you stand for, and just the type of person that you are. It brings a sense to people that they can accomplish anything. You started late in your career doing what you're doing. I started late. I shifted
Mhm.
from doing security for 12 years, literally carrying a gun in a vest, protecting banks, to actually working in them. So I get it, man, 100%. And I try to instill that same thing into my kids. My son is 17. He's working right now. He's been working since he was 16, putting money away. One of the benefits of working at a bank is I can teach my kids the value of money, and I can teach them the value of what, working hard can show because they've seen it firsthand. So I want to
That's right.
thank you for that. I want to thank you for that. So where can people, if people want to work for you, or if people want to learn from you, where can they find you? Where can they contact you, communicate with you to be able to do that?
I do appreciate that, Francisco. They can buy a plane ticket and come visit me in Costa Rica. That's number one. I have a very large Facebook fan page of 130,000 local Costa Rican ticos. So when this goes live, you'll have tons of new fans here. And just real quick for your audience, we are north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. Costa Rica is the only democratic society in Central America, and they have no standing army. So they put all their money back into education with a 95% literacy rate.
Wow.
I compete against Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle for this labor pool. We're known for the best infrastructure. Ecotourism, Francisco. We got some of the best surfing in the world in Malpais and Hermosa. We have hot springs. People do zip lining and quadriciclos and exploring. But I tell you, my man, if you ever go out into those rainforests, really is a painting. I mean, it's just gorgeous out there in regards to the plants and the animals and the birds. But be careful. My suggestion is don't go, trucking around with flip-flops on, drinking your whiskey. It's kind of dangerous out there.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful. But it's been a good 23 years. I don't regret it at all. And just I want your audience to be bold and brave, but have these checkpoints prior just to diving into the pool. I was building on momentum. I spoke Spanish. I really wanted to be an expat. I had a friend that was here, set me up with a job. So was it cushioned? It was nice. I mean, I had a wonderful, stress-free transition into this stage of my life. And what a run. What a run. But yeah, I can't thank you enough. I really had a great time on your podcast today, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. You're a plethora of knowledge when it comes to business. I mean, you essentially all the values and all the teachings is what we have to do in my industry as well. You need to learn how to talk, active listening, how to make your transitions, your permission statements. It's crazy how similar things can be in different fields of what you do. So, but I appreciate it, man. It's good to have some insight. I love learning. I'm never stopping learning. It's always something that I don't know that I learn from, and learning that you can go to another country and just start a business that way and be successful. It gives me hope for the future because, like I said, I want to live in Spain. I want to have my own business in Spain. If I can podcast from Spain, I would podcast from Spain as my business. So, but I appreciate you coming on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with what I leave everyone with. No matter what anybody tells you, if you found your purpose, live it.